Canby, welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for, what is today, July 15th, 2020. We just come out of a work session and we're going to move into our regularly planned meeting. To start off with tonight, we have a swearing in of a new police officer. So I will turn it over to the judge and the chief over there at the Canby Police Station. Gentlemen.
Very good, thanks. This is Chief Brett Smith, and you guys can hear me okay? Okay. So I want to introduce you to David Wohlers. So David was born and raised in the state of Washington. He graduated from Tumwater High School in 1999 and started an internship program at his church for emerging leaders in Olympia, Washington. He participated in this internship for about 2 years until he decided to move to Southern California in 2002, and it is there that he continued on with his education after high school. But David said it didn't take him very long to realize that he wasn't a fit for Southern California. So he moved back to Oregon in 2003, and it was at that time that he met his wife. David said he truly has a diverse work history, from making coffee, landscaping, bank management, and being part of a church staff. He decided to pursue a career in law enforcement in 2014. He was hired then by Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and where he has spent the last 5 years as a jail deputy. However, since sixth grade, David said he wanted to be a patrol officer. That, coupled with his passion for his community, he decided to apply with the Canby Police Department. And as you may have now guessed, he's a resident of the city of Canby. David has been married for 16 years to Amber, who he described as his beautiful wife. Together, they have 3 children. Joshua, Dylan, and Natalie. And David described Natalie as being his little princess. David said he and his family are active members of Canby and loves watching their boys participate in sports, as well as helping to coach where he can. But not to forget his daughter, Natalie. David said that he very much enjoys watching her dance at recitals. David enjoys hiking, fishing, staying fit, loves movies, playing sports, and he's a huge Seahawks fan. To quote David, he said, "My goal is to learn as much as I can, climb the ranks, and retire all here in Canby." Well, I think he's here to stay, or at least that's what he said. Anyway, but you got the quote. Please welcome Officer David Wohlers to the Canby Police Department. I believe he's going to be a good fit, and I believe his experience with Clackamas County Jail is going to have some good opportunities for us to learn from him as well and be a better department for it. So right now we'll go ahead and do the oath of office, and then I'm going to ask Amber, his wife, to pin the badge on him after that.
Okay, why don't you stand where the chief is?
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure you can hear us all. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, David Wohlers.
I, David Wohlers.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and uphold the constitutions.
That I will support and uphold the constitutions.
Of the United States and the state of Oregon.
Of the United States and the state of Oregon.
And the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby.
And the charter and ordinances of the city of Canby.
Remaining in compliance with the professional standards.
Remaining in compliance with the professional standards.
Established by the department's missions.
Established by the department's missions.
Values and professional code of ethics.
Values and professional code of ethics.
Department policies and directives.
Department policies and directives.
And will faithfully perform the duties.
And will faithfully perform the duties.
Of police officer for the city of Canby, Oregon.
Of police officer for the city of Canby, Oregon.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Guess we got a bump elbow.
Yes.
There.
There you go.
Okay, so you need to sign this. I'm hoping this works. Oh, if you've got one, go ahead and use that. And don't forget to date it too.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Amber to come on up, and Amber, I'm going to let you pin the badge on him. There we go.
All right.
Well, I didn't tell David this. I said it would be really easy, but I didn't tell him that you guys usually have some questions or some comment or statement that you like to make afterwards to David and put him under a little bit of pressure.
Well, Chief, this group is never short on words for sure. I'll keep it simple. Officer Wallers, welcome to the Canby Police Force, and thank you for stepping up and filling a very important role in our city. And having overlapped your family now for a couple of years with sports and dance, you have a great family, and I know that they will support you 100%. And we're just glad that you chose to make Canby your place to live and work. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Councilor Varwig, you need to unmute. Or
Is that better? Is that better?
yes, sir.
All right. Welcome and go Hawks.
Yes. I love it.
Anyone else? No? Well, congratulations, sir, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Judge, good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Thank you for wearing a mask inside. I appreciate it.
That's one of us.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Chief. Next, we have Steve Donovan and Andy Cahoot giving us an update or a presentation regarding the Canby disposal rate increase proposal. Andy and Steve, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. How have you both been?
We've been surviving.
Have you guys been busier than usual?
Collections at the households are up
so let's talk about recycling. Andy can step in here any second, but in September, we told the manager that it was costing us $130 a ton to dispose of recyclable materials. Since that time, that is increased to $138 a ton today, and it's very likely it's going to get to $150 a ton within short order. And just to put it into perspective, we could dispose of a ton of garbage at any metro transfer station for $97.45 a ton. So clearly, in I think 2018 when we came, and we told you that China was no longer taking recyclables from Europe or from North America. Well, now they've passed a domestic law forbidding all of their domestic processors from accepting foreign recyclables, period. And that's just the way it is. We're not going to be able to send our stuff there anymore. Andy, you got some thoughts?
In addition to Chinese closure, to any Asian country, because of the reports we've been getting back of pollution and ocean contamination, we've all agreed in Oregon not to ship anything outside of a domestic. That includes Indonesia, the Philippines, any of those other countries. So everything is staying in North America, Canada, and the United States. And that, unfortunately, is very expensive. Our state association is working with the DEQ, the Oregon DEQ, to take a look at the list of materials we're collecting, analyze what we are collecting, what we should be collecting, and what changes should be made. And we're in big debate with that currently. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll get some direction out of the DEQ on how we could potentially change the program to make it more cost effective.
Okay, move on quickly. I know you got a lot on your agenda. So we've run the numbers. Simply way too big a hit to take. And what we were supposed to do is to break that into two chunks. The first on September 1st for a $2.47 increase for the average single family customer. And then on March 1st, pick up the other $2.48. So that would bring us back up to the total then. And then finally, here's a great chart as of right now of what everybody else is spending. And Andy and I have talked about this. Most of the communities that you see in this chart get with their councils and do a forward looking, much like you do with your budgets for your utilities and your general fund. You look forward to your next fiscal year and you say, what are your resources and
the way rate reviews work, I'm fairly confident that while you're going to see Canby jump up to the, just below Lake Oswego, by the time we get to March 1st, those communities are all in rate review looking forward. They're going to bump up probably a little bit higher than us, I'm guessing. And Canby will always lag a little bit behind those communities because we're outside of the metro urban growth boundary. And there's some taxes and fees that we don't have to pay because we have our own transfer station here in town.
Okay, what I'll do is I will stop the screen share, give it back to you folks, and let's open it up. Let's have a conversation. What do you folks think?
So, Mr. Donovan, I appreciate it and the presentation. Andy, you know, you guys are, as a company, a great community partner, have always been a great partner, and I suspect will always be that way. And so, I appreciate that you come and give us the lowdown on what it is that you guys are experiencing out there right now. Yeah, the recycling conversation has not changed. It's gotten worse. I read that in the papers as well. What does that look like here stateside? I mean, are we seeing companies come online here in the US or Canada that will be able to do the recycling that was being done overseas? Or are we just looking at now that this is just, we're going to have to absorb that into our regular everyday trash, and that recycling is just going to fall away?
Well, it seems to be changing every month, but we're actually very fortunate in the Northwest to have a paper mill in Longview, Washington, that accepts our paper fibers, our mixed waste especially, because that material was heading overseas for years because China had a big appetite for that type of paper with the growth of their economy. That's been changed, and fortunately, International Paper has taken that on, and that paper mill has viewed it as an opportunity. Unfortunately, we've had several mills in Oregon specifically shut down in the last decade, including Blue Heron Paper in Oregon City, SP Paper in Newburgh, Willamette Industries in Albany. Several of these facilities that were able to take that paper in the past are not consuming that material at all. So right now, we're very fortunate. There are some rural communities in Oregon that have changed their program that are outside of the requirement for curbside. I believe that's a city of 5,000 or fewer. I just noticed a list today. Milton Freewater has recently dropped their curbside program because of the transportation costs to get those materials to market is so expensive. I don't think a lot's going to change. The DEQ seems to want to look at a producer responsibility versus the curbside program. They kind of want to leave the curbside program alone. We're debating that right now. We believe that we can make a few changes to the program and make it better. In another year, I'll probably be able to tell you the full story.
But Mayor, just to think about other cities in the country, the answer is they are throwing it away right now. New York, Houston, Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles are all severely curtailing their recycling programs. They're landfilling glass and scrap metal and contaminated waste paper as we speak. It's getting landfilled.
That's unfortunate. I mean, considering the effort that it's taken since I think the recycling movement began in the 60s and 70s to get to a point where it seemed to be having an impact. Now we're going to set things back, which is unfortunate. Thanks for answering my question. Councilor Spoon, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Like Mayor said, I really appreciate what a community partner you are. I know everyone's really happy with the additional services you provide us that you aren't required to provide, and I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate your role in the community. Just a clarification in case someone comes back and watches this later, I am sure it was just a totally human oversight that we've all had with PowerPoint, but a couple of points referenced Sandy's curbside pickup or said Sandy City Council at the bottom. But I assume that the data, the data is the same. If someone watches that and knows that the data that you presented was specific to Canby, it was changing a footnote is a pain in the rear, and I'm sure it was just a totally normal oversight. I just wanted to make sure in case someone came in later and saw it that the data is correct. It was just
we were there last week.
Yeah, nope, I've done it before. I get it. I just didn't want anyone to question it later. Thank you.
Council President Dale.
Yeah, Steve, Andy, thanks as always. You guys are just wonderful always and so great to our community. We're looking at $4.95 a month, right? And that's for the 32 gallon. And so I, ashamedly perhaps, I'm one of those 65 gallon guys. what's the increase we're
Oh,
looking at?
my. You have it in front of you, Steve?
I haven't got it in front of me, but we'll get it to you. It's commensurate with what you'd see. It'd be
It's the same percentage increase, so
right.
whatever.
So it'd be the same percentage increase. So think of it 10% more than what you're paying now.
Okay,
For-
that's
come September 1.
so that's something like $7 then.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, $8. Okay, it's about 40 a month. Sound about right?
Sounds right. Yeah, I
Okay.
can click on it, but I'm afraid I'm gonna lose you because I'm not a Zoom expert.
No, it's okay.
That brings up an interesting point, Councilor Dale, that if we go away from, like, we're on one of the smaller garbage cans because of the amount of recycling that my wife encourages me to do. And so I know that if we do away with recycling as a component of the curbside service, that, yeah, we would have to go to a larger can. Is that something that Andy, you guys are looking at in terms of how much longer will you be able to do the recycling program before you have to absorb it into the regular trash?
I don't think that's going to happen with the way the discussions are going with Metro and the DEQ and the way they're going to manage the Metro waste shed, of which entire Clackamas County is in the Metro waste shed. I think that list is going to stay the same for quite some time, even though people like me think it needs to change. So I don't think that's a question that needs to be answered anytime soon. However, yes, you are correct. If we did take that material, some of those materials, and put it in the trash can, people would probably have to upsize, which we would probably encourage you to do because, like, for example, right now, so many people are at home. We're seeing people put extra trash outside their can because they're not at work now. They're at home, and that extra trash is going to cost you more setting it next to your can than it will be to put it in a bigger can. It's actually more cost effective if that's going to continue to upgrade to the larger can, and we're ready to do that at any time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Councilor Parker?
Well, I don't think anybody on the council appreciates data points as much as I do. So did I get this right? Last year you had 20% less, or during perhaps COVID, 20% less commercial activity, and 20% which you get money for, and 20% more home action from people like Council President Dale. And your profits, you had a 5% loss. I guess it never occurred to me that people would generate more garbage during a pandemic. So that's another data point that I'll ponder on. And let me also second that of the institutions that exist in this city, the waste management is one of the most beloved. When I first came to this town 25 years ago and was driving around, I said, what's that nice facility there? And they said, well, that's the waste management headquarters. And I thought that's probably the best landscaped waste management I've ever seen. So thank you for your continued partnership in the community. The world market and plastics and recycling being what they are, we can only respond. And finally, is there any reason that at some point we could not be prospective instead of trying to remediate last year's losses, of projecting it? Tim, isn't that what the Canby Utility Board does as well, that they project what their expenses will be and adjust the rates accordingly?
They do. They're fortunate, however, that BPA gives them hard cost ahead of time, so they have an advantage there. They don't have to deal with things like recycling market dynamics. So
The answer is, of course, we could change it. It's simply a contract, and this has come up with a number of our communities. Just to give you a sense, when this original franchise was put together, the world view was eventually recycling was going to make money. and make lots of money. And it was going to reduce the cost of garbage such that we would only be coming back for inflation-based adjustments, consumer price index type changes, because recycling was going to be this perpetual motion machine where we would put water in the front end and wine would come out the back end. Well, that really, really surprised the world because, and I'm going to tell you the truth here, for the last 20 years, we have been exporting our pollution to China, and the same ship that pollution goes off of gets loaded back up with VCRs and flat screen TVs that come back to us. That was a virtuous cycle for a long time for America, but it's not going to be that way anymore. And I know you all get it. I know you see it. So the answer is, yeah, we would very much like to get away from this backward looking, because we hate to come in front of you and say, by the way, we need 20% because we lost a bunch of money last year. Well, if I'm the mayor and I'm the finance director, I'm saying, why weren't you in here last year telling us this? So yeah, Councilor Parker, you're absolutely right. We'd love to get forward looking.
Yes, and also I'd like to address your comments regarding COVID, which was, of course, that's in 2020 numbers, which are not reflected in what we presented here today. And so we're hoping that, some of this will be offset. And these are obviously strange times. The recycling market hit was the biggest one-time hit in my 30 years of a professional life. I've never seen anything like that. So I'm hoping, we're hopeful that this is just a one-time 20% increase and we won't be back here asking for this again.
So Andy, I'm noodling here for a minute, and one of the things I think that we have done well as a city and city council is we've looked at things like our utilities, like water and power, and committed to the understanding that even in tough years, there's going to be an increase in those utilities, because if we don't, at some point, we're going to have to come back to the general public and play catch up. And that's when we have to try to sell to the public that we're going to take a 30% increase on your water or more. I don't know how many mayor's conferences I've gone to where that's been a conversation topic where the council didn't do any increases on utilities for 4, 5, 6 years, and then realize they've got nothing in the coffers, and so now they've got a big pipe project that they need to do or whatever, and there's a big rate increase to their citizens. As you're sitting here telling me that we don't know what the new world looks like in terms of trash collection and waste management in a COVID world. Not that I'm excited about rate increases, but it's business. We understand that, and we're your customer, and those are going to happen. Is there, looking at it from a longer standpoint in terms of the increases maybe spread out even further, knowing that there might be another bump later on?
Well, that's what we did in 2018, Mayor. Remember, we just took $1 in 2018 and we said, we got our fingers crossed that this recycling market is going to fix itself. That was our mistake. We should have been much more forceful and said, look, this is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. So we're in a tough spot. We need to get this right just to get ourselves back to an even keel. If we can get through March, we'd come back to you and make a presentation to you as to where we stand. Would that be helpful? So you can get at least public notice?
Yes, that would. I think with anything, when you're talking about rate increases, it's communication. Hey, this is coming. This is an unfortunate change in the business model, right? Like you said, when recycling it was going to be the great moneymaker. I thought your analogy of water in one end, wine out the other, and that's not been the case. And we hear often that sometimes it takes more energy to use recycled material to create new material than and whatnot. So I mean, there's two sides to that conversation. So yeah, I would say coming back in the future with another, hey, an update on where you see things at, so that we're not looking at a 20% increase, I think would be great.
We'd be glad to do that.
Councilor Parker, I saw you waving your hand.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor. I think this council for many years now has taken the attitude that cost adjustments should be done regularly, rather than kick the can down the road and then have to do a big one. So I think we would be supportive of that. We're going to have a new city manager, hopefully, at some point in the future, in which point I think you certainly have my support of coming in and asking for a meeting to discuss changing the terminology of the franchise. It just doesn't make sense to me, and maybe there are good reasons, as Tim points out, that you're not able to project ahead. But I think there might be a better way of this. Second, the consumer education is important. All of us try and keep up on things, and still it came as a surprise to me that I've got 2 cans outside here, and what I put in one is going to cost, what, $35 more a ton than what I put in the other one. That actually it would be cheaper for you at the end of the week to take everything out of the recycle can and put it in a garbage can and send that off, because that's cheaper. I think it's important for people to understand that the value and virtue of recycling is coming with a distinct cost.
Yes, Councilor Parker and also Mayor Hodson. One thing we could meet with the new city manager and propose is an annual review, which is what we do for Clackamas County anyway. It's actually a great system that they have. We tried this CPI every other year kind of thing to not get into those details, but I think that you're right. I think a review would probably be better than that we do anyway. And it would give you more information to make a decision on.
And it's just like your sewer utility. You put together a budget, you put together a 5-year business plan, you project against that plan, and you anticipate what your revenue requirements are going to be. That's what we do, and we'd look forward to doing that in a business way, and it just seems to make sense. And I know Portland does it, Washington County does it, Clackamas County does it. Most of the big cities, they've got the pro forma look. Yeah, the Gresham
jurisdictions have been doing that, but I'm fairly certain that Clackamas County would lend some assistance to Canby, because there would probably be some you need somebody to look at it on your end, and some cities hire a consultant or however you want to do it, and we can make those proposals.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea as we get through these next 2 bumps here on the waste management side. That new city manager in place, that we need to maybe look at how do we stay on looking at this on a regular cycle piece. So from a business standpoint for you, but also as a business consideration and home budgeting for our residents and the businesses in our community. I think we can get on that page together. I think those gradual increases are much easier to swallow than two 10% hits on the pocketbook.
Keep in mind, almost every community in Oregon had this hit about a year and a half ago when the initial market crashed. They took their $5 and $6 hits at that time. We're just a little bit late getting to you with ours.
Well, we appreciate that we're last on the list.
Yeah,
So
got
that's
a good
good.
deal for a while.
Um, sorry, I was having a little visitor. Yeah, no, I appreciate us being last, so thank you for that aspect of it. I guess the benefits of being the hometown. But no, we understand it's a I can't imagine the changing business climate that you are in, much like everyone's got their cycles and whatnot, and so we get that it's a constant check and adjust that you have to do right now.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Donovan or Mr. Cahute? Councilor Berge?
Dave, Andy, appreciate you guys coming in. I just had a quick question. You mentioned that you took a 5% hit last year on your profits. What fee are you normally trying to shoot for when you're doing this?
The revenue requirements model sets a 12% pre-tax. That's what's in what we set up in the franchise. That's the bar that we set for the revenue requirement. So that's why we came from a -5 up to the 12 pre-tax. So it's a 6% after tax is the net.
And we were able to also utilize the new disposal fees and whatever taxes or increases in yard debris disposal when we go through that process. So those are plugged in for that number, the new number that will hit in March.
Perfect. I didn't think your numbers were that high percentage wise, so I wanted to kind of get that out so that people think that you're
For
not
example, like the Riverbend landfill closed.
Exactly. Thank you.
And then now everything that from Canby is going to Arlington in Eastern Oregon. So that added a little bit of disposal cost.
That's a trek to move some product.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just think about it. On your garbage day, you have 4 diesel trucks show up at your house every garbage day. That's a lot of equipment that has to move. That's a lot of labor. That's a lot of fuel. And then once all that stuff gets collected, you're right, Mayor, that garbage has to get put onto a transfer station, then put it onto transfer trailers, then put onto a train, taken out to Eastern Oregon for ultimate landfill and disposal. So it's a complicated system and a dance that has to be accomplished.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that we have the service. So anything else for Cahoots at this time? Again, I think it's one of those things where there isn't any action necessarily by us as much as we appreciate that you come before us and present this and share it with us as the council and our community to let us know what's going on. And again, we really appreciate you, Andy, and your family and the business that you run and how you partner with Canby and all that you do. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll once we get a new city manager in place, we'll see what we can do about getting this talked about on a more regular basis.
Great. Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Sarah's back. Sean's connecting. There's Trig. Counselor Parker is there. Okay. Mr. Clark, thank you. Okay. I think, Melissa, did I say something wrong?
We don't think so, and we're all back up. Thank you.
All right. We will continue. So next on the agenda is just communications. Anything from the great City Hall there?
No, we don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will just, I was remiss in the beginning of the meeting to address that the City Council did have a work session this evening. We had a discussion with the police chief and our lieutenants and overall looking at Canby police policies and what they have been doing over the last couple of years as an agency in terms of keeping up with pieces coming down either from the state legislature or things that the just require just an annual review or every other year review of their policies. And then in light of recent events and what's gone on at the short session with the legislature, so they've been making some updates to their policies. And in many cases, a lot of their policies were already in place prior to some of the legislative moves that have come down from Salem. So that was our work session this evening before the meeting. So I was remiss in saying that. So now is our opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the City Council on items not necessarily on the agenda. Each person will be given given 3 minutes to speak. Staff and the City Council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during the citizen input before the meeting ends or as quickly thereafter. In a Zoom world, digital meetings that we do, we have asked that if you are wanting to make comment, that you reach out to Melissa Bissett, our city recorder, and let her know by 5 o'clock of the night of the meeting so that we know that you're going to tune in or that you have written comment. So in my notes for this evening, I have citizen input request number 1 from Paul. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Hello, sir. How are you this evening?
I am coming up to the podium here. I'm fine. How about yourself?
Doing well.
Good. Last month we talked about the use of fireworks at the graduation ceremony, at the virtual graduation ceremony.
Yes, sir.
And this is a follow-up with this. So bear with me, please. It's hard to talk through this mass, but I'm learning. Okay, it has been established by the City Council that the school district did not have the authority to use explosive fireworks at the virtual graduation ceremony for the senior class of 2020. I believe Ordinance 149 was violated. This is a partial quote from the Canby School District's core value statement. Quote, Canby School District shall promote non-discrimination and an environment free of harassment, end quote. I live within a designated noise-sensitive land use area. You violated my environment and harassed me with your unwanted explosions. The City Council of Canby was aware of the school district's plan to use explosive fireworks at the graduation ceremony. They did nothing and accepted the plan. I believe Ordinance 1489 was violated. The following is from the City of Canby City Council values and goals. Honesty, ethics, accountability. We adhere to the highest standards of honesty, ethical conduct, accountability that inspire public confidence and trust. These are the foundations of public trust and confidence. Are ordinance to be followed by some people, but not all people? I believe Ordinance 1489 was violated. Inclusive community. We are committed to open communication and outreach to engage all segments of the community. Not when the north side of Canby will have an established quiet zone and the south side has their noise-sensitive land use areas violated by explosive fireworks. Exceptional service. We are dedicated to providing exceptional customer service and delivery of public services to our whole community, not when you divide a city by north and south. Seems like this was done before. In conclusion, the synonym for ordinance is law. I believe in a civil society that the law is binary. That is, it is either on, followed, or it is off, not followed. In a civil society, aren't there consequences for not following the law? My question is, this isn't about a graduation ceremony anymore. This is about rule of law. And I'm seeing it unfold in front of us all over the country, and it's not acceptable. And it certainly isn't acceptable from our fine city. And I'm not saying that anybody is doing this with malice or deliberate, but there needs to be a reset here someplace. What conclusions can we come to?
Paul, I appreciate you coming to us on this, and I own this one. I deeply apologize that I've not been able to coordinate with our city attorney and the superintendent to have this conversation about their role with the firework piece. That was something that should have been cleared through us, because that was outside of what we had originally agreed upon. You are correct in that. And so I know with, I don't have an explanation. That I agree with you. That's something that was outside of what we agreed upon when we extended it the way we did to the school district. Joe?
Yeah, yeah, I'm coming up, Mr. Yesick.
It was Paul.
Okay, anyway, he had to move away so I could talk here. Yes.
Will you please make note to coordinate between myself, yourself, and Superintendent Goodall a conversation about this situation and figure out what we can do to rectify this, and so that we don't have any more misunderstandings on what it is that we expect from our ordinance.
Yes, absolutely.
I will, my schedule over the next couple of weeks is returning to being mine, so I will be much more amendable to being able to meet than what I've been able to do the last couple of months. So if you could set that up, Joe, I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, with Superintendent Goodall, we'll have to figure out what a schedule that works for everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
But yeah, let's, I'd like to get this talked about here before, we'll say before school gets started, in whatever way, shape, or form that may look like. But I definitely want to at least get something in terms of a phone call or a Zoom meeting, Joe.
Yes, copy that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
May I say one more thing here, that maybe we can make this real easy. I've been at this for almost 3 years. There are admittedly things that I am adamantly disagreeing with the council on, but I'm not so stoic. We're in crisis here all over the place. And it's like, I don't mean to just heap this on the city or the city council. So if there's such a thing as a reset button that we could do, where I could be involved, again, I will meet with the superintendent also. I will meet with any council member. I don't want to have this go down the road of fast tracking something to where it just is a clue. So it's like, if we can put this on hold, if it gives you respite during this crisis, I am willing to do that.
I appreciate that, Paul. And I mean, I think, what we're looking at right now, and I think the reality is that this is for, at least in my professional world, I mean, this is what we're working at this is going to be what it's going to be like for the next 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year. That's just us on my professional side of life. So I think that this is what it is. This is our daily routine. I will definitely work to include you in those conversations. I don't know, and maybe after the conversation with the superintendent, it becomes a pause, and we recollect and decide where we go from that going forward. To me, again, I agree with you in that I think we were pretty clear on our ask, and we're flexible in keeping with the spirit of the fireworks and tradition and things like that. And we had a pretty simple ask that if it was anything outside of that we at least have a dialogue or come talk to us about it. So we're in the know. I appreciate that and offering to be included in that. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Counselor.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Paul.
I'm done. So if there's any comments, I'll stick around. Otherwise, I'll just head.
No, I think Counselor Varwig's waving his hand, so I'm going to give him a moment here.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here tonight. You made a mention of us knowing about it prior, and I just wanted to kind of clarify that. I believe that in your last meeting, you mentioned that Canby PD had mentioned knowing about it prior to. I can't speak for any of the other counselors, but I want to let you know that I learned about it at the exact same time that you did, or maybe later than you did. I learned about it the second that the first explosion happened. So I didn't know about it prior to the fireworks taking place. So I just want to clear that up to say that it wasn't, we weren't letting it happen without getting the proper stuff out of the way. So just wanted to clarify that.
And again, I appreciate all this. It's like we're human, and I get it. And I'm not holding myself up higher than anybody else here. The temptation sometimes gets there, but my high horse, when I fall off it hurts. So I'm on the community side here.
Well, Paul, I totally I believe that, and I hear that from you every time you've come forward, and I appreciate the latitude and the grace that you have given me on this issue. So I've asked Joe, we'll get something on the calendar and see what we can get coordinated.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. God's blessing to all of you.
You as well, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next on my list for citizen input is Valerie Bird, who wants to comment on 5G. Miss Bird.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Are you able to see me, or does that matter?
It's totally up to you. It does not appear that you're coming through via picture, but your sound is fine.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why. It's I have my camera on, but my son, who's 12, could figure this out, but I just only have 3 minutes here, so I want to be as brief as possible. But thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I really appreciate it. I just want to say I really love the community of Canby. My husband and I have owned a piece of land here for about 10 years and finally decided to build and make our permanent residence here because we love it so much. So it's been a dream come true. One thing I wanted to talk about on 5G is that I don't know if you're aware of this, but some of the major players in social platforms like YouTube, Google, Instagram, and Twitter have all literally banned any discussion on 5G and the effects of human health. You've probably seen a lot of commercials from, T-Mobile, Verizon, and others that hype the 5G about the Internet of Things and the wonderful things that it's going to do for us. Self-driving cars and, uploading all kinds of information in a second, holograms, all these things. But we don't hear much about the studies on human health. Yet, if you go on the internet, if you do research, you don't have to dig far to find out that there's actually many countries, municipalities, and counties that have actually completely halted the implementation of 5G. Some of these countries are Australia, the Netherlands, Brussels, Los Altos, California, which I find very ironic, but all of the council members there. And to me, that's ironic because that's like one of the epicenters of Silicon Valley, right? So Switzerland, even Portland, Oregon on March 2019, they're vehemently opposed to the implementation of 5G. And so you have to ask yourself, what is it that these people know? Australia, another country that said, no, we're going to halt 5G. What is it about these countries? What do they know that is causing them to pause? So I read a lot, and I read a variety, of things. And I came across a book called The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Life by Arthur Furstenberg. And the book basically chronicles the advent of electricity and how we've harnessed it and the effects to human health, which run the gamut from heart disease, diabetes, cancer, et cetera, et cetera. The book is a little bit dry, but it makes a compelling argument. So then I did more research, and I found lots of scientific, didn't have to dig deep, but I found multiple sources on 60 gigahertz and what the short millimeter waves will do. 60 gigahertz, which is the proposal that's going to be rolled out, has the unique property of absorbing oxygen. It actually breaks up the O2 molecule in the environment. And so I've just done a lot of reading. I came across Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Instagram site, and he is, an activist, an attorney, started Waterkeepers Alliance. He's also, I would say, a vaccine expert. But he has a lot of information on his website about the effects of 5G and the radiation and what it does to the blood-brain barrier. It destroys the blood-brain barrier. There's a lot of schools, there's a lot of places that decided they're not going to put this near daycare centers. In Israel, they don't have Wi-Fi in the classrooms. They use hard connection, copper. But these are definitely sources. I'm trying to point you in this direction. So you can go to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and look at his information that he's providing, because it's very, very research. It's very fact-based. It's not hyperbole. But these antennas are going up everywhere. We have the world's billionaires, Crown Castle, Gates, Musk, that are putting up the low altitude satellites. In addition, the FCC just proposed OTAR. I don't know what the ruling ended up being, but that's the proposal to put 5G antenna on residential homes. This has never been done before in the history of the world. So that means if you live in a community with 10-foot, zero lot lines, you're very close to your neighbor, they can throw up one of these antennas. And I just think that there needs to be some investigation. I don't consider myself an expert on this, but I know how to ask questions. I know how to connect the dots. And it seems to me there's a reason why all these countries and different counties in the United States have said, wait a minute, we need to look a little bit more deeply into this. So I implore you, to do this. And, Canby has a lot, I think with the bee situation, I look at it because I look at our property and I see the bees and I see bumblebees, and I'm always sort of trying to gauge is it a good year? Is it a bad year? And then I'm seeing all the hazelnut farms going up. And I'm thinking, with colony collapse disorder, there's a body of evidence that says this competing electromagnetic waves and frequencies are causing collapse of bees, homing pigeons, birds. I mean, it's affecting everything. So I just ask you that you maybe take some time, if you do have the time, to do a little bit of research, and you won't have to go far. But if you look at maybe Furstenberg's book and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I think, you might find out some stuff, and, it might be a concern, and it might be worth Canby saying, hey, maybe we need to pause this. I know there's a 5G tower that went up on First Street. And I just hope, I mean, my hope is that, Canby, is forward thinking and puts the health of its citizens first before we just do a blanket rollout. Thank you.
Ms. Bird, thank you for coming to the council this evening and sharing that with us. I know that probably over the last year and a half or so, we have had other people come and express concern about the 5G piece and whatnot. And so I am definitely not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on that. I rely a lot on Council President Dale, who seems to do a good job of moving around in that world on that, but also I'm sure is new and ever changing as well. We will definitely look into this and further research this ourselves as this comes about. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes. Amanda, Joe, clarification. We've not had any permits yet or applications for 5G yet, have we?
We are in the process of, we've had some on again, off again folks who have shown up, even gone through processes of trying to do franchises. We are also in the process of writing our ordinance and getting it through Planning Commission and you guys so that we can kind of have a front end control on this. But no, to my knowledge, we have not had any specific permit that allowed a site in town yet.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Sorry, excuse me one sec here. I just want to make a quick note. Great, thank you for that. Next, for citizen input, I have Brad Clark. Mr. Clark, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you all doing?
Good. What do you have for us this evening, sir?
I was curious in getting some more information. You and I had a talk over coffee several weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to meet Sean as well. And I appreciated all of that time, and got to be a part of the work session that you guys did earlier today, and listen in on all that input. It was great. I appreciate our police officers here in Canby and the organization, as you spoke very highly of them, and they clearly are forward thinking, looking at all the issues that are going on right now. At the same time, I just discovered kind of 24 hours ago, one of the things that we had talked about was the cost of law enforcement. And at the time, the number was given to me that about 60% of our city's budget is allocated towards law enforcement and the court. And I was told then that was pretty average. And it really was only, I only started looking yesterday to try and find comps, comparable cities around us and other law enforcement agencies across the country, and find out what was being spent and what's kind of a reasonable number. Because that seemed, initially high to me, but it's not something that I had been involved in knowing before. So, and what I feel like I found is that is, I couldn't confirm that information. In fact, the cities around our area, I went to several of directly to their budgets, since it's all public record, and confirmed with ours what you had said, because after hearing about so many other cities that were at much lower percentages, it was hard for me even to remember, did I remember that correctly, that it was 60%? So I'm just curious, and just for a couple examples, Wilsonville just north of us is 25%. Woodburn just south of us is 27%. And I believe Oregon City's was 39%. And I don't know, I had saved the links to those city budgets. So I am curious as a citizen, and it's not that I am coming here today asking for all of this to change immediately. We employ a great number of people through our law enforcement locally, and I appreciate what they do. And at the same time, I feel like we all, as citizens, need to be responsible with how we are spending the money through the budget. I don't know who said it at what point, but that budgets are moral documents, and it hurt a bit to think of all of the other opportunities that our city could be missing if we are so disproportionately overfunding an organization. I mean, we're getting a good police force, but comparatively with my interactions with other police forces, I see quality there as well. And so I'm just trying to come to you as a council to learn, to learn a bit more and find out why.
Good question. I appreciate that. I can't speak to Woodburn and Oregon City necessarily. Wilsonville, I do know they actually contract with Clackamas County. So Clackamas County acts as their policing agency.
Yeah, and as an employee of the city of Wilsonville, that was what I was curious, because I've had the opportunity. I mean, I've lived in Canby for 12, almost 13 years, and have worked in Wilsonville for almost 10 of those as a city employee, and have had the opportunity to kind of see both cities being managed and different aspects of that. And so, we had talked about that. Like I know that it's done a different way. Whether that's the best financial decision, I feel like it's really caused me to question it. I haven't had time, like I said, to go and compare, totals with all the other things. It's just the percentage seems so out of the normal that I just felt like I wanted to hear directly from council members what they knew about it, what the history maybe has been for those who've served and been in Canby politics and government a little bit longer, about how it could have grown to that size. I mean, it's more than, the police and courts is what, over $6 million.
Mayor Hodson?
Yes.
This is Amanda Zyber with the City of Canby. And one thing that I might be able to offer that a little bit of clarification, I think that number is more reflective of the percentage of our general fund budget rather than our overall city budget. And it's about, the police are about 55% of our general fund.
Correct. 55 is the police, and then the courts are another 6 or 7%. So I'm lumping those together to get to that 60, because they were lumped in the Wilsonville number as well as, I believe, the Woodburn number. Not every city kind of reports them exactly the same, whether it's the courts and the police. But yeah, I mean, yes, the police alone are about 55. I think it was, I think they were 5.9. And then I could pull it up. I've got it open in another window if you needed it, but it's so I'm sure you've seen it, and we're not worried about specifics.
So Amanda, so in terms of overall budget, what is that? Do you know what that percentage would be?
I don't know off the top of my head. I just know that it's about 55% of the general fund expenses are for the police, and the police department uses about 75 to 77% of our general revenue.
Okay.
I guess you could look at it this way. This is Joe Lindsay. If you're barking around $26 million and you're spending $6 million, you can do the division and figure out that it's high 20s in terms of the overall budget, if that's what you're asking. I would also note the court and the police are actually separate branches of government.
Mm.
And our court actually, the revenue that comes in through the court, through fines and crimes and such, actually makes money for the city. So it's even a little bit more or different and robust conversation than you think, sir.
Right. Oh, I fully imagine it is. Yeah.
Right. It's an interesting question about the breakdown. I will get that, see what I can dig out in terms of that breakdown, and I will get that out to you as reference.
I'd appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I understand it's a deeply complicated thing to put a city's budget together. And I am just beginning to try and understand it. It's just on paper so far, what I have seen, it looks very disproportionate to other cities. You know, and I don't mean to go on, you know, if you compare to like larger cities, most of them are under 20%. And I assume that's because they've got a lot of services they can consolidate. And as a smaller city, I'm sure, you know, that's a part of a larger expense for us. And I am just trying to find those logical pieces of why for our small town here, it would be so disproportionate to the other, you know, small towns around us. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that. And I have put my contact information in. If any counselors and or other city staff have input for me, I would really love hearing it.
Brad, thank you for coming. I appreciate that you coming on and asking the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for that. I appreciate it. So moving into mayor's business, I don't have a lot to report on right now. We are in the midst of a city manager search. We have been conducting interviews this week, and we'll conduct a few more next week. And hopefully, I think we will have a candidate or two that we will bring to town and hopefully figure out how to hire a city manager in a digital Zoom world or COVID world and social distancing and all that fun stuff. So the council is very committed to having as much of a public process as we can when we do narrow it down to the candidates to bring to town. And so we'll work on figuring that piece out. On the park and rec front, that meeting is next week. I will tell you all here on the council at home, the end of June, the Park and Rec Advisory Board selected a new chair. So Barry Johnson will be taking over as the chair of the Park and Rec Advisory Board going forward. And then tolling and 205 expansion. So I've been invited to be involved with a small group of potentially impacted cities from the tolling conversation that's going on. So I'll be joining the cities of Oregon City, Gladstone, West Lynn, and I think perhaps the Stafford Hamlet in terms of conversation about what tolling is going to look like and the diversion pieces that will play into that. I-205 expansion, as many of you may have heard, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler has pulled their support for any type of Rose Quarter expansion projects or improvements in that area. And so the Clackamas County lobby team and Board of County Commissioners, there's a lot of conversation of does that position the I-205 project maybe to garner funding sooner than later to move forward with taking the plans that I think are almost complete to be able to start to move forward with building that out. That still does not eliminate the conversation of the Rose Quarter and its dire need for improvements of traffic flow in that area. The general consensus or thought is that that conversation will not move to 205, but will move to the interstate bridge, and seeing that be brought back for conversation as a potential regionally significant, and by regional I mean West Coast, significant project. So more to come on that. C4 will meet at the beginning of August. We spent our last meeting at the beginning of July talking about our work plan for the year. So once that gets finalized, I'll share that with all of you at our meeting in August. I think that's all that I have right now. I will, before handing it off to councilor comments and liaison reports, I know today is the first day of kind of an update directive from the governor regarding kind of COVID and the numbers that we're seeing. I get those numbers every day. I get a county by county breakdown, and Clackamas County has stayed steady between 18 to, today was unusual, it was 24 for today's report, but we've been in that 18 to kind of 22, 23 range in terms of cases. But as many of you know, we are tied to a couple of other counties, Washington County and Multnomah specifically. So those numbers continue to be very high. Washington County is, I think, anywhere in the high 40s to the 50s in terms of confirmed and presumptive cases. I think Multnomah came out of the gate today with something like 80. So to circle back to the governor's piece about the masks and wearing them, I know there's a lot of debate on that issue. There's a lot of conversation about it. I hope that we as a community can think and maybe branch outside of ourselves a little bit. And when you're going into a business, please wear a mask. It is ultimately your decision. I totally understand that. I'm just asking as your mayor and as a community member, somebody that has a pre-existing condition, just keep that in mind. I wear one because I work in my daily profession where I'm around a very vulnerable population, and so I don't want to be patient zero for my building. Again, like I said, ultimately we are responsible for our own actions, and so I'm just making that as a friendly plea to just you think of it, don the mask. I would appreciate it. I will move into councilor comments and liaison reports. I'm going to go right around the clockwise from what I see on my screen. So Councilor Spoon, you're up first. Surprise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things because meetings are getting started back up, but I haven't had any that have occurred yet. But later in the meeting, we're going to be adding 3 people to the Transit Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to welcome them. And what's also exciting about it is that I think for the first time in that committee's history, we have had more candidates than spots. And I just want to applaud the community for really becoming engaged and being a part of the local government. There's some exciting things happening with transit. So I just want to welcome Paul, Warren, and Alex to the committee, and I'm looking forward to their input. And then additionally, I'm hoping, I know I've been asking this for a little while, that we can have coffee and talk about the diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan I brought up a few meetings ago, Brian.
I sent you an email yesterday about getting on your calendar.
Great. I will pick it up then, and I will make sure I get back to you and we get a time. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, Councilor Parker.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Councilor Berge.
I have nothing tonight either.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Varwig.
I do have a few things tonight. As far as the library board, they had their first meeting in the COVID era in June. Roger, who was a longtime board member, has turned out, so he is off the board. And I will also extend a welcome tonight to our new board member, Jessica Hines, who will be joining the library board and will be appointed tonight. Our consent agenda as well, so welcome to Jessica. Our library director is retiring, so we are in search of a new library director. So if anybody knows a great library director, we are in need. And that job posting is on the city website and open until filled. The fire department is well on their way with their remodel of the main fire station. If you want to see what they're doing, I encourage you to go onto their Facebook page. Division Chief Todd Gary is heading that up and has been doing a great job of keeping the community updated on his weekly updates. So you can go back and watch those and kind of see, it's not quite a time lapse, but if you start with the first one and watch them in succession, you see the changes that they've made over the last several weeks. This is exciting. Our new ladder truck has arrived. So Canby now has a ladder truck for anybody who may have been worried about how they would access the Dahlia building is our tallest building. If something were to happen, we now have a ladder truck that can access that outside. So congratulations to the Canby Fire Department for bringing that in. And I know they're excited about it. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And last but not least, Council President Dale.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the last 2 meetings of Canby Utility have dealt pretty much just with yearly housekeeping issues. So on we go.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I will move. It takes us to the consent agenda. A couple of items on there.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I move for the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of June 17, 2020 City Council regular meeting, a new limited on-premises OLCC liquor license for Bee's Bake Shop, the appointment of Jessica Hines to the library board, and the appointment of Warren Holzum, Alex Weiss, and Paul Waterman to the Transit Advisory Board.
I will second.
The motion has been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes of the June 17th, 2020 City Council regular meeting, the approval of a new limited on-premises OLCC liquor license for Bee's Bake Shop, approve the appointment of Jessica Hines to the library board, and the appointments of Warren Holzen, Alex Weiss, and Paul Waterman to the Transit Advisory Committee. Any comments or questions? No? All those in favor, hold up a hand. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I see, what did I see? 5 hands? Perfect. Any hands opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you. We will now move into resolutions and ordinances for the evening. First up is resolution number 1339, a resolution authorizing a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby disposal within the city of Canby. So we had that conversation earlier in a not work session, but presentation from K-Hoots and them on that piece. Are there any other information, Amanda and Joe, on the matter?
No, their franchise agreement with us for that particular service is exclusive to them in the city. And part of that franchise agreement does allow them to then come, because they're the only contractor in the city, to come and renegotiate prices with you. So this is within the franchise that they can come and ask for this. And so if you like the reasoning, you could vote for the resolution.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments regarding the franchise fee, what was presented earlier, what we're looking at in that regards? I'm seeing a lot of head shaking no. All right, I will take a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1339, a resolution authorizing a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby disposal within the city of Canby.
Thank you, sir. And Council President Dale with the second. Motion's been made by Councilor Varwig, seconded by Councilor Dale to approve resolution 1339, a resolution authorizing a rate increase and establishing a new rate schedule for garbage collection by Canby disposal within the city of Canby. By a show of hands, all those in favor? I see 5. Anyone opposed? I see none. That passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is resolution number 1340, a resolution to ratify the contract between the city of Canby and the local 350-6 AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO Union for the period from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and repealing resolution number 1273. And I'm presuming that, Amanda, you're there to give us the details.
Yes, thank you very much. The current agreement between the city of Canby and the AFSCME union expired on June 30th of this year. They notified us at the end of last year that they were interested in meeting and conferring about a new successor agreement. We met with them early spring to start the negotiation process, and then, like the rest of the world, had to regroup due to COVID. And we postponed meetings temporarily, and then went back to meeting by electronic means through email and virtual Zoom meetings. We all decided to just go for a 1-year agreement this time. Typically, we have a 3-year agreement, but because there are so many unknowns in the world right now, this made more sense. So the successor agreement that is in front of you would be retroactively effective to July 1st of this year and would expire on June 30th of next year. And next spring, the city and AFSCME would come together for a full negotiation process. The agreement that is in front of you includes just a couple changes, including a 2.5% COLA, which was negotiated as a flat rate and is consistent with the same cost of living that the Police Association will be receiving this year. Also includes some updates for legislative updates that occurred midterm, and updates some language that became very important earlier this year related to additional pay during emergency closures. And the union and city agreed to limit employees having additional pay when city offices are closed if they're considered essential and have to come in for a 2-week period. So those are the changes, and the AFSCME group has met and ratified the tentative agreement, and it's in front of you for your approval this evening.
Great. Thank you, Amanda, for the work on that. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I think based on everything that's kind of been going on, 1 year seems to be appropriate. I like that we're on the same schedule. Both unions are on the same COLA schedule. That I appreciate as well. Any comments, questions from the council? Councilor Parker.
Just so you can put on the record that I believe we were briefed about this in executive session in the past. So
we were.
The minimal amount of discussion that we're having today is not all that we have thought about.
Thank you for clarifying that. That is correct. Thank you. Yeah, this was not a something that was given to us a week ago for us to read and ratify tonight. Yeah, generally in this process, city staff updates us on any major pieces before we move forward with an agreement with either of the unions. So Amanda does a great job on that front for us and has over the last, a number of years, Amanda.
Yeah, and that is a good clarification, Councilor Parker. And also, just again, another reminder that this was really turned out not to be a full contract negotiation. We didn't have the full contract open, just covered the couple of items that were necessary to cover for the next 1 year period.
Councilor Varvey?
Yeah, and just in the packet there, it looks like we're repealing, there's two separate resolution numbers. So just for clarification, when somebody makes a motion, in the proposed motion on the memo, it says repealing resolution 1196. And then in the actual resolution, it says repealing resolution 1273. I'm wondering if we could get clarification on which one we're actually repealing.
The correct resolution for the AFSCME collective bargaining agreement is resolution 1340.
Correct, but which one are we repealing? 1196 or 1273?
1196.
I believe it's 1273.
Oh, is it 1273?
Can we confirm that so that we make sure that we get the right one on the motion?
Sorry, Sean, I think what's on the agenda is 1273, and I think that's.
I'm sorry, 1273 is correct. That's the one we're repealing.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion.
All right, go for it.
I move to adopt resolution 1340, a resolution to ratify the contract between the city of Canby and the local 350-6 AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO Union for the period from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and repealing resolution number 1273.
Thank you, sir. And Councilor Berge's got the second. Thank you. So the motion's been made by Councilor Varwick, seconded by Councilor Berge to approve resolution number 1340, a resolution to ratify the contract between the city of Canby and the local 350-6 AFSCME AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO Union for the period from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and repealing resolution number 1273. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? And I see 5. Anyone opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Give me 1 second. Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is ordinance number 1530, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and interim city administrator to execute a contract with Curran McLeod. Amanda, again.
Thank you. Yes, this North Locust Street has intermittent old curbs and sidewalks, and failing surface continues to deteriorate. This project is a complete rebuild of the curbs and sidewalks on one side and parking on both sides from Northeast 4th to Northeast 10th, and also including North Knot between Northeast 3rd and 4th. Excuse me, we're receiving about $374,000 federal fund towards the project. The rest will be funded with street and sewer SDCs. This resolution is declaring an emergency. The reason that that language is in there is because a couple of reasons. This was a high priority for the Traffic Safety Commission, and this project goes towards our plan to connect the splash pad and public library with safe pedestrian routes. And also they'd like to move forward and get this done before the drive-in at the fairgrounds. And the city staff has been working with the fairgrounds on pedestrian safety as it relates to the traffic around town pedestrian wise from the fairgrounds to the splash pad and to the library.
Amanda, thank you. And I appreciate, I know that Councilor Hensley's not here addressing her undoubted question about why the emergency clause. Forgive me, it's been a deluge of emails and whatnot over the last couple of days on things. But I thought I saw one regarding, you mentioned the drive-in situation at the Clackamas County Event Center. And Councilor Parker, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought there was an email exchange about we're opening up the ground. Do we need to run power? Are we connecting all those entities together for that, to fill that need? Was this that project that we were looking to try to piggyback on?
Correct, but it's Amanda's call on whether the timing is going to work. The county fairgrounds are going to have to bring in a power extension and cut up part of that road. And it's always a good idea to only cut up a road once. But again, I let that in Amanda's hands to figure out whether that was going to work for the city or not.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that finisher. I don't know if I saw that piece. So, okay, thank you for that.
And we do have staff working with the county and the fairgrounds on that issue. We really appreciate the opportunity to have those discussions before new streets are put in, as Councilor Parker mentioned. So those communications are happening.
Thank you for doing that, Amanda. Appreciate that. Yeah, as Councilor Parker said, it'd be nice to only have to cut open the road once. But if the moon and stars don't align on that, then that's sometimes how it goes. So appreciate that. Any other questions for staff on this one? Okay, I will take a sorry, Councilor Varwig.
Sorry, I threw my hand up there at the last second. So this is going to be, you mentioned this is to help with the safe pedestrian access to the splash pad. And so I'm curious if this, I can't see it in the staff report, where this might include crosswalks across 10th Street or 10th Avenue. Is there any kind of pedestrian crossing going in with this upgrade?
Well, we are talking about some additional crosswalks and looking into where they can be located. As far as the North Locust Street project and what is in front of you tonight is the approval for an engineering contract with our city engineer for design and construction engineering of the improvements. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Varwig. Any other questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, I will take a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1530, authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Kern McLeod Incorporated in the amount of $90,000 for design and construction phase engineering services for reconstruction of the North Locust Street sanitary sewer and declaring an emergency.
Did I see a hand go up or a comment? Thank you, Councilor Varwig. Sorry, just trying to get to, there we go. Motion's been made by Councilor Berge and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve ordinance 1530, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and interim city administrator to execute a contract with Curran McLeod Incorporated Consulting Engineers for engineering services to complete improvements to North Locust Street reconstruction and declaring an emergency, our first reading. Any other discussion amongst the group here on this? No? Show of hands, all those in favor? I see 5 hands. Perfect. Anyone opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Next is ordinance number 1531, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association, Direct Link, to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date.
I'm
yes,
here.
sir.
Also, Mr. Jim Hunsaker, maybe you can see the participant list on your feed there. He is also here if you guys have questions for him. He represents Direct Link, and so he's happy to answer any questions. The telecommunications world, the franchises that we give are about mostly being, well, it's about being in a right-of-way. They are governed by, laws, and we have our own ordinance as well. And part of this is the term for their franchise agreements on both of their telephone service, which is different from their cable service, came up here very close in time to each other. And so we briefly negotiated a mostly extension of their agreements because they're good agreements. And not only are they good agreements, but they are in the telecommunications world, there's a necessity for a level playing field. And so we are extending out what is basically very typical and very similar agreements with all of our franchisees in this realm because we have to. And in this particular case, we've given most, if not all, of the competitors in town 10-year agreements. So we went to match that up. And then similarly, the world of 5G has kind of come online, as you guys have seen in the workshop so far, and have kind of heard in some of our discussions. And the FCC rulings in that regard have kind of painted a new picture. Under Oregon law, we've been in the past asking for the 7% maximum for franchise agreements in this area. And that's not exactly a luxury for us anymore because there's this whole new arena that's commanding in mostly dicta, but in the idea that the FCC is of the opinion that it's cost prohibitive to get past 5% on these things. And so if we are going to be giving them to the 5G folks, as they most certainly will come into town, it's really a level playing field and a matter of fairness to treat the people who are here and been here a long time at least the same, which is offer that 5%. So that's why you're seeing that number there today. I'm not sure if Mr. Hunsaker has anything additional, but this is just an extenuation. It as far as the cable goes, it allows our CTV5 to continue with their PEG fees in the same fashion as well. So we're excited about that. And I don't know if you have anything else to add, Mr. Hunsaker.
I don't, Joe. Thank you. I'm here to answer questions if the council has any. Canby Telephone, doing business as Direct Link, really prides itself in being involved in the community and appreciates, well, CTV5 is right in the middle of my screen. So,
well, I'm glad that you are here, Jim. Appreciate it. Glad that you actually spoke, because if you've been here this long this evening, you should say something. It's good to see you. How have you been?
I've been very well, been very blessed, and anxious to get back to a pre-COVID type world.
Yes, I think all of us are ready for that at some point. So, so we're visiting this now, Jim and Joe, because the franchise contract, we've come to an end on the previous one, so we're renewing it at the 5 versus the 7, because this is in anticipation of 5G.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think to be, I think, a little more candid with you as well, I believe in our discussions around when we rewrote the telecommunications ordinance and went with the model ordinance about 4 years ago, I believe. There was a lot of discussion. I think Roger Reif was the attorney at the time, about the difference between registration fees and franchise fees. And the discussion, from what I thought you guys landed on, was in fairness, trying to get maybe closer to the 4 or 5% anyway. That's my memory of it. So it isn't completely outlandish for the intent to be there, as well as kind of the legal need because of 5G and the level playing field idea.
Nope, I appreciate that recollection, Joe, and yeah, I think the level playing field is important for sure. Any questions for Joe or Mr. Hunsaker? Council President Dale, did you have a question?
You knew there would be. Hi, Jim. Just a few things. Joe, do we know if there's a significant budgetary impact that we need to take into account?
It's not. It is not that significant.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we paid attention to it, because it will go to the bottom line. Is the franchise fee is still a pass-through fee, right? It's passed through to the consumer?
It is. We are permitted to pass it through. I don't believe we pass the entire fee through, though.
Very good. Okay, and that's where we need to pay attention to the FCC's argument then, that 5%, anything above that could be onerous to them if they did not pass it entirely through.
Yeah, yes, it especially with the 5G folks coming into the world, it's kind of the Wild West right now for those guys.
Yeah, and it sounds, Jim, like the FCC has settled on 5G will count for both plain old telco and cable TV and internet.
Well, it's certainly a very fast data source. How it's all going to filter out is a little unclear, but it sure bridges between internet and traditional telephone.
Yeah, I remember some of the heated discussions in the past about what's telephone versus what's digital. And yeah, in Canby, historically we've tried to help simplify that. So, that's all I had. Obviously I support dropping to the 5% for Canby Tel. Joe, do we have to do any kind of immediate adjustment for Wave's franchise agreement?
I will look into that. I believe their time is coming close too, so it probably needs to have a conversation more sooner than later.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff or for Mr. Hunsaker? No. Okay. I will take a motion then, please.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I asked for ordinance 1531, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association, Direct Link, to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Spoon with the second. Thank you. So the motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Counselor Spoon to approve ordinance number 1531, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association Direct Link to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date to come up for a second reading on August 5th, 2020. Any other discussion amongst the council? All right, seeing none, show of hands, all those in favor? I'm seeing 5. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Jim. It was good to see you.
I'm actually on the next one too.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes.
All right. It helps for me to look ahead. Great. We'll move into the next ordinance, which is 1532. An ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association Direct Link to provide cable television service within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date. Joe.
This is the other, I mean, our discussion covered this in that the cable portion of this is, regulated by many of the same law. This is where we also, though, find, because their franchise agreement allows for the PEG fees that give CTV5 their life. And so we would ask that you also give them their extended franchise for a 10-year term.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Mr. Hunsaker, anything else you want to add to that?
I don't really have anything to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Questions of council? All right. Not seeing any. I'll take a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, ordinance 1532, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association as direct link to provide cable television service within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Councilor Varwig with the second. So the motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Varwig to approve ordinance number 1532, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association, i.e. Direct Link, to provide cable television service within the city of Canby and establishing an effective date to come up for a second reading on August 5th, 2020. Any further discussion by the council? All right, seeing head shaking no, I will ask for a show of hands. All those in favor? I see 5. Anyone opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Looking ahead in my agenda, Jim, you're not on there anymore. So now I'll say it was great to see you, sir. Yeah, thank you. Next on the agenda, City Administrator Business and Staff Reports. Miss Amanda.
Hi, we don't have too much. I did just want to let you know that the Maple Street splash pad moving along very nicely. That project's looking great. They've been successful with a couple of pours, and I think the last one is scheduled for tomorrow. I'm still looking at a completion date by the end of August. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Ivy Street sewer project out to bid right now, and we are getting a good response on proposals. So we're pretty happy to report that. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. I will say too, I don't know if the council has seen that or this or not. Maybe some of you in the public have been out and about earlier, I think this week or maybe the tail end of last week. It appears that PGE was out moving or putting in a new pole for the power transfer lines that they're going to move to improve the Elm Street intersection there and make way for the quiet zone project. So that was a big piece to get that project going, is to move that pole. So it looks like that's on its way. The council is aware of this, but for those of you in the general public, every every month we get a bi-monthly report from city staff and the department heads on what's going on in their department. So if you're interested in some more details on what's going on at City Hall and what the different departments have going on, please feel free to go into our website, pull up today's packet for the agenda for today, and read our monthly reports. There's actually a lot of information in there that we get that is made available to you as well. So please do that. Second opportunity this evening for citizen input. I don't know if we have anyone there in City Hall waiting to ask us a question or opine on anything that was on the agenda this evening.
No, Mayor.
Thank you, Melissa. Action review.
All right, you have approved the consent agenda, approved resolution number 1339 and 1340, and ordinances 1530, 1531, and 1532 will be coming back on August 2nd for a second reading, or August 5th for a second reading.
Wonderful. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Spoon. And Mr. Varwig, I will credit with the second. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn our meeting. All those in favor? I'm seeing 5 yeses. That means that there is no one that wants to continue to meet. So I will call this meeting adjourned. Canby, thank you for tuning in. Have a great evening, and we'll see you in the beginning of August. Have a great evening.